Welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Carrie Barnum for New Shelves Books, and we are here for Free Advice Friday, the hour where we talk about book marketing, publishing, and the business of being an author. You are welcome to join us any Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern by going to newshelves.com/FAF. You can also email in your questions to info@newshelves.com, and we'll answer them live. And you can always catch the replay on YouTube, New Shelves Books, if you can't join us live. We do have an emailed in question as well as a couple of in-person questions already coming in. So we are going to go ahead and jump on to those. First question, I've heard Amazon can tell if reviewers are from your area. Does Amazon really remove reviews if you get a lot from your hometown? That is a very complex question. So the first thing you need to know about Amazon, when we're talking about like what Amazon knows, what Amazon doesn't know, is that Amazon is the second largest search engine in the world for online. They are right behind Google. So when we think about Google and everything Google knows, and you can type in just about anything and Google gets information, Amazon is the second largest search engine in the world. Amazon has a lot of data and they have a lot of information. Not only that, but to leave a review, you have to have an account. So to have an account, you need to, of course, be signed in with your email. You have to put a physical address in there. So absolutely, they know that if a certain zip code or a certain area is leaving a lot of reviews, they know. Now, again, we always talk about this. Tom is not sitting in his office going, man, a lot of reviews from the zip code. It's all, not all, but it's mostly done with bots, AI, and checkers. So if they have certain systems in place, like to check for, and they do, they have systems in place that kind of are supposed to keep on reviews and whether or not they're honest and whether or not they are real. Part of that is to see, are they coming all from the same location? Part of that is, are these reviews realistic? Do they all seem like they're written by AI, like AI checkers? There is so many different things that are involved in that. So the answer to your question is, does Amazon know where the reviews came from? Absolutely, they do. Now, will they remove them just because a lot came from your hometown? Not necessarily. I think a lot of things go into that. Number one, were those reviews, were they all from ARC reviewers who didn't purchase a book? Were some from legitimate purchases that left reviews? Because you can leave a review without purchasing a book from Amazon. We've already covered that. But if a lot of them come, if 20 reviews come from your hometown and you gave everyone ARC copies and none of them bought, so there's no verified reviews, then that might trip up the system. If, for example, everyone's mentioning you personally, hey, yeah, Carrie's my best friend. We grew up together and I love her book. That can trip the system. If people are using a lot of the same language. So, for example, I have seen authors send out review requests where they say, please go leave a review. Here's 5 sample reviews that you can use if you want. And people literally just copy and paste them over. So you end up with a lot of people submitting very similar or exactly the same reviews. That will trip up the system. So there are a number of things in place that will trip up systems. Now, will Amazon remove reviews? That's up to them. If something trips their system, they do have sometimes where reviews are just automatically removed for certain things. And then they also have where maybe it just goes up for review and people can't leave reviews for a little while, or certain accounts can't leave reviews and different things. And again, this is mostly done with bots. At some point, it trips the system to have a manual review, and it does go up the chain to be reviewed. Or if you put in a request, sometimes it's reviewed. But as far as if they remove, sometimes they remove reviews, sometimes they remove legitimate reviews. And once they're removed, they cannot go back up. Like they cannot restore them. They don't keep them. Once they're gone, they're gone. So Amazon's playground, they can do what they want, but those are the things that might trip up and kind of make it more likely for them to not allow a review or to remove a review. So just be aware of that if you are asking people from the same zip code or something. And also keep in mind, again, second largest search engine in the world. They have a lot of data about people. They have data that has nothing to do with Amazon specifically. For example, we have talked about, do they know that we're friends on social media? Well, that depends. If you are on Facebook app and you click on an Amazon link and you then log into your Amazon account, they now have your Facebook information that they're processing in their little computers. So now they can say, oh, well, this person's connected to this person, and they start to build their web of information. And that's how sometimes they can know whether or not you're connected by social media, and that sometimes can get you pulled. So there's so many things that interweave into that question and that answer, but those are some of the main triggers. Short answer, yeah, they can do whatever they want. It's Amazon's platform, it's their playground, and they make the rules. But those are some of the things that can kind of get you tripped up there. Let's see. Please confirm the latest date this year for a book launch. I know earlier you had mentioned stay away from the elections in November. Absolutely. So I highly recommend that if you are publishing a book, that mid to late October is really the latest I would do it this year. And even that's pushing it. Unless you have a book that's really timely or needs to come out, I wouldn't go any later than mid-October at the latest. If you have a holiday tied or themed book, then it might be okay, but really use your discretion there. And I would say if it's a holiday themed book or if it's really Christmas themed, you might even try doing it after or around Thanksgiving, after the elections, after the first week or two, when everyone is going to be crazy and all over social media and everything like that. So those are the things that I would be thinking about for picking a publication date this year in the fall and winter. Your other question about whether or not I will be attending IBPA this year, I haven't made plans to attend IBPA yet. I don't know if I'll end up going. I know it's in Minnesota this year, May 15th through 17th. So I know about it. I don't know what my schedule will be quite yet. I've still got some conferences, where you've been asked to speak or you put in to be a speaker, and I haven't heard back from all of them yet for 2025. So I'm not quite sure yet, but it is on my radar. Speaking of conferences, Stuart's asking if the October conference that I am co-hosting with Alexa Bigworth is open to men. So it is very much run by women with a lot of women involved. Men are allowed to come if they'd like to. Just know there's a very, very heavy female presence or women identifying presence. And a lot of that is because Alexa does run Women in Publishing, which is a woman run and a woman targeted organization in the publishing industry. So men are absolutely welcome, but just know that there will be mostly women there that are signed up already. And the speakers, I believe, are all women as well. And then as far as like genres, all genres are welcome. We have every genre. I think we have a children's book author, memoir, Christian nonfiction, fiction. We have like fiction, fantasy, I think is what they write, like really all across the board as far as that for the October conference. Now, of course, it sounds like there's a couple of men in the group who maybe want to go. You could always make your own little band and come hang out. Um, like I said, it's open to everybody. I recently learned that after a long backlog of titles, Draft2Digital has published my book to Hoopla. Hoopla, for those of you who don't know, is for libraries. Would this be a good time to reach out again to libraries? How would you suggest I best target this effort? So yeah, I think anytime you have new library distribution, it's a great opportunity to highlight that to libraries, to kind of, if you've been in touch with libraries, that's a great chance to follow up and say, hey, I know we were in touch in March about my book. I just wanted to let you know that it's now also available on Hoopla. And if you're considering digital submissions and you haven't yet put my book in your catalog, I'd love for you to consider it. And then you tell them not only about Hoopla, but all the other places that your book's available. So that's another great reason for a touch point. So I think that's fantastic. And I think pushing the digital assets, especially if you have an audiobook as well. So ebook always, but if you get a new audiobook and that's available through Overdrive, Hoopla, Bibliotheca, those are always good things. And yes, New Shelf still does library mailings. We have a library mailing coming up. I want to say it's in September. So we do still have those available. At the moment, they're 100, excuse me, they're $199 for a library mailing. I was gonna try to find the link to that. See if I can find it. But yes, we do still do that where we reach out. Our list right now is at um just over 7,000 librarians that we reach out to. So you can absolutely sign up for that. Let me find you. There we go. I knew somewhere I had that link. The link, if you're considering that, and I can pull the dates for you as well. The library mailing from New Shelves will be going out. It's October 15th, but the sign up ends September 17th. So you can absolutely do that. I'm going to drop that link in the chat for anyone who might be watching on Facebook, or if you're watching the replay, you can always find information if you go to newshelves.com/library. That will be there. If I give someone a review copy of my book and they also buy it and are verified, do they need to mention getting a free copy when they leave a review? Nope. Actually, most places or most reviewers no longer mention getting a free review copy at all. It used to be kind of the required etiquette that if you got a advanced review copy, a free copy, that you would say something like, I received a free review copy from the author or publisher, but all opinions are my own, or all opinions are honest, or my honest feedback. That's no longer what most people are doing because the Amazon little bots and algorithms are picking up problems when people are doing that because they saw a free book. And unfortunately, there's that fine line between you can offer someone a review copy of your book and ask for a review, but you cannot pay them for a review. And it is considered, if you say, I'll give you a copy of my book if you leave a review, and it's contingent, then that's considered a payment. And that's why the language can sometimes trip up the bots and all of that. So we no longer recommend that when you're leaving a review that you say you got a free copy. You can say, all opinions are my own honest views, but you really don't need to. Just leave the review and leave it at that. You don't need to necessarily say that you got a art copy or that you got a free copy any longer. Not on Amazon anyway. Will libraries only purchase hardcover books? My children's books are only paperback. Not at all. That used to be the case. And I will say for children's books, sometimes they still do prefer hardback just because children are so rough on books. And not only that, but not children are rough on books, but also children's books get checked out a lot because you're going in with a child, you're getting 15 picture books, and then you're coming back the next week because you can go through those 15 picture books in, 3 days and then read them 5 more times before you come back. So those books get a lot of use. So hardback is popular for libraries and for sales in general for children's books. However, libraries will absolutely take paperbacks. They do this more and more. There's actually a coating that they can put on books. It's like a really thick film. I don't know if you've ever had a library book that's like kind of ripping, but then the front cover like is like a really thick film. So it's like all crackled and ripping in the back, but the front is still held together and it looks like I don't know, it's almost like tape is almost what it looks like. And that is the film. It's a library film they put on there that really strengthens those covers and helps them to stay together and put together. So they have that they can use. And also paperbacks are just more economical. They're cheaper. And so we see a lot of paperbacks get purchased from libraries as well. So having just hardcovers is no longer required. It's nice, but it's not required. All right. I am confused about how to use the at tag symbol in the description section with Facebook posts and ads. I used to think that if I added at group I follow, that my post would show up in their stream. But lately it seems like this is no longer the case. Related to this, how is sharing a post after I've submitted it on my Facebook personal page with a group I follow different from using the at sign? So Facebook has been playing around with these at signs for a while. I personally really dislike them. I have to be honest. I hate when people use this. So there is, I think it's the at symbol. Everyone will tag like everyone in a group. And so I'm actually in a group that I moderate. It's a huge group that I moderate for women in the publishing industry. And we do not approve any posts that use those because essentially it's a forced notification to everyone in the group. Now, have we occasionally used them when we have a problem with rules or we update? Yes, we do, because it makes sure that everyone sees it. So there are different things like everyone, I was tagged in, I think it was yesterday. It was very recently, a friend on Facebook. So just like a Facebook friend, they use this tag to tag everyone that they're friends with recently. And it was for, gosh, it was for like a fundraiser their kid was doing or something like that. And what did they do? It was at followers. So everyone who follows that person or their page would get the notification. So at everyone and at followers, there are some other ones. I don't know if group I follow is one of them. Again, as I mentioned, I really dislike them, so I don't use them unless it's something very, very important. I feel it's needed. And the reason why is because it's kind of forcing yourself on people. Um, in my opinion, you're forcing a notification in a world when we already get a lot of notifications. And if I wanted to get something from you, I probably would have gone looking or I would have interacted so you'd show up in my feed. Um, so unless it's super, super important, I wouldn't necessarily use those all the time because it feels a little intrusive. But you can use them. So there's that to know. And as far as sharing a post and sharing to a group, the difference is when you're sharing into a group, like some groups don't allow those, it's removed. So you can't use those types of things. So sharing to a group directly means that your post gets shared to that group versus just tagging people from the group. And again, if it's disabled, which it is in a lot of groups, then you're not reaching the people you maybe you think you are. And the hashtags, so hashtags on Facebook do not matter nearly as much as they do on other social media platforms. You can hashtag books and Bookstagram and Book Talk, and it may help a little bit, but hashtags were kind of a thing that they were on Twitter. They never really made it onto Facebook, even though they tried. And then they're really popular and drive algorithms and views on Instagram. So they definitely are needed on TikTok, on Instagram. They even work some on LinkedIn. People will use them, but on Facebook, most people don't use them. And so I don't think they're that effective simply for the matter that most people aren't using them. And the way the algorithms work are what hashtags are you following? What hashtags are you responding to? Which hashtags are you using? And that's how they work in the algorithm. And they're not used widely enough on Facebook for them to actually make a huge difference. So you can use hashtags on Facebook, but I don't think it's as imperative or as effective on other social media platforms, just by nature of people don't use them. Hashtags were kind of something that were after Facebook and they didn't catch on as much. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Let me get to this emailed question here because Kevin sent it in last week. All right. Kevin's question. Do people really still read 600-page books, even in nonfiction? Wouldn't it be better to split the book up into a series? Um, there is different schools of thought on this, actually. So do some people still read 600-page books? Yes, they do. In fact, if you have a following, not if you're just a new author, but if you have a following and you're in fantasy or romantasy or sometimes sci-fi, people like big books. Um, I'm sorry, but now I'm playing in my head. I like big books and I cannot lie. This is where my head goes. You're welcome. I'm so sorry. So yes, people do like books and they do like those really big, thick books. But not only that, it's popular to compile a series or different books into one ebook. Essentially, it's a box set is what's happening. So instead, if I have maybe a trilogy and I have a trilogy of books and they're all, I don't know, 300 pages, and I sell each of them for $4.99. I could do a box set of all three books, making it 900 pages, but I'm going to sell it for $9.99. So it's a discount for anyone who buys the box set. And people like that because they're getting more for their money if they're going to buy it anyway. So sometimes you'll see books that are just that big on their own. And then sometimes you see books that are being put into a group together for that, where everything is just all grouped together with a trilogy, or nonfiction authors will sometimes do this where they'll put like all of their books together for a box set. And there's a couple of reasons for doing that. As I said, sometimes it makes it so there's another product to sell. Story, there's another product to sell, another thing to make money on. Some people will do it because you're more likely to get certain like BookBub promotions. If instead of, you have your $4.99 book, you're willing to drop to 99 cents for one book. Sometimes you won't get a BookBub, but if you submit a 900-page trilogy all in one book for $1.99, you'll get that book. So sometimes people will use it for that. Sometimes people will use it simply to make that price comparison of buy them each for $4.99 or get all three for $9.99. All sorts of different things. If people are reading on Kindle Unlimited, I've seen this quite a lot for books that are in Kindle Unlimited. They will do those really big books because you get paid by the page read. So the more pages you have, the more you get paid. And sometimes authors will purposely write longer books to get people reading more pages. They will go into that world building a little more, or they'll take that storyline a little bit further. Now, on the flip side, if this is your debut novel, if this is your first book, if you're thinking of a long-term series, I have had authors, I don't think he's on today, but I have had authors who give me a book and it's hefty. And I say, this is so good, but this is two books and we're going to split it up. And then we make it happen to where we're splitting it up into two books. And then that was the first two books in a 10-part series. So sometimes we do that. It really depends on the genre, the audience, what the goal is with the book. If it's your first book, look at Harry Potter. The first Harry Potter book was not nearly as big as the last one. Why? Because there wasn't an audience. At the end, they could have that hefty book because they knew people would buy it. They would pay for it. If you are pitching a book to go traditional for an agent, for a publisher, size matters. The length of your manuscript matters. So it's so important that you don't go too big for a book for traditional publishing, especially for a debut author, because it's more expensive to publish and print and market a bigger book. If there is a book that's 150,000 words, it's going to cost twice as much to edit. It's going to cost twice as much to print. It's going to be a bigger financial risk. And so publishers typically are not going to take that on from a debut author. They want an author to prove themselves first. They want an author to really build up their audience before they put that much money into it. So really, if you're a debut author, a newer author, still getting your footing, you're hoping to go the traditional route, your book really should be, the sweet spot is the 80,000, maybe 80 to 90,000, but anything above that is really hard to sell traditionally in almost every case. So yeah, and see, Jess is saying the same on the side, that she encourages debut clients to keep the books around 80,000. Much easier. Now, and again, do people read them? Yes. Sometimes people are like, look, I just have to show you guys this because it's funny. So this book is so big that it's actually like part of my computer setup, because you guys know I've got that computer and I've got this computer and then I've got this computer. I don't have a problem. But as you're mentioning that, I think it's funny because this is a book. Absolutely. Do people read 600-page books? Do they read hefty books? They do. This is a book that I've had for years. I actually got it for Christmas one year, and it is nonfiction, and it is nonfiction kind of history, I guess we could call it. So, do people read big books? They sure do. And it all depends on the content. But this book it was curated by a very well-known entity, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. And so just be smart about it. I think that's what I'm saying is be smart about it. It can be a marketing tactic. Sometimes it's needed, but be smart about it, and especially depending on how you intend to publish that book. Yes. Yes, it is quite the big book. I kind of keep it on my desk because I put my one laptop on it, so it's a little bit higher, but also it can make a great weapon if I needed it. So many uses. All right, let's see. Yeah, aren't publishers attracted to ideas which can be multi-volume spread out? Sometimes they are. It's really popular when agents are pitching publishers or authors are pitching agents to say, stand alone with series potential. And the reason why is because when you have a series or, a multi-volume somehow spread out, is because you can charge more. It's that idea of, hey, if I do this one 600-page book, I can charge $9.99. But if I have six books that are 200 pages, I can charge four or $5.99 each, and then that's actually more money than if I just put it all out as one. So yes, there's a lot of potential there. And also it's if you get a reader on for marketing purposes, in most cases, when you have a series, you always market the first book. You will launch the books after that, but you really only market the first book. And this is why when I talk to authors, especially fiction authors that I work with, I tell them, hey, this book or this series is doing well. Write the next one in the series. It's pretty much all profit for you once you get through the launch because it just adds on to what people are buying and paying for and what you're earning. And you don't have to spend the marketing money for it because you're only marketing it with the first book typically. And so that's why there's a lot of good opportunity there. However, it's all about the series potential because it's a test in the market. We like to say there's a standalone with series potential because it should stand alone because it's that tester. Do people like it? Does it flop? Do you get an audience? How many does it sell? Are people asking for more? And if the answer is yes, then suddenly it's a series. If the answer is no, then it's a standalone and you better be writing your next book. So that's why it kind of matters there. And absolutely, children's book authors in particular, series are loved because children like familiarity. They like to see the same characters over and over again. It's why kids will watch the same movies. Oh my gosh, my daughter watched the live, like the real life 101 Dalmatians was her favorite movie. I had to like go find an eBay copy because they weren't even making it anymore. She would watch that movie every day if I let her. For like 2 years, she would watch this movie because children like the familiar. And when they are doing books, we like to see the same characters because that's what kids like. So, yes, it's very popular for children's book authors to have one character, one world, and to build off of that. And you see it again and again if you go to books or even cartoons, different things like that. It's why Land of Before Time has like seven movies because kids like what they know and they want to see them again and again. And absolutely. That's right. Jane knows because I keep telling her, when's that next book coming out? Hey, I think you'd do great with another book in your series. All right, let's see. Do I recommend using Draft to Digital? Does it conflict with having an ebook on Amazon and do they deal with Ingram Spark? So I do recommend Draft to Digital for your ebooks only. I do not recommend Draft to Digital for your print books. And the reason why is that Draft to Digital for your print books, essentially, when you upload a book, they automatically set your terms. You don't have any say. The book is non-returnable and it's at a 55% discount. So you don't have any say on the terms of your book when you use Draft for print. The other reason why I don't recommend using Draft to Digital for print is that they are literally sending your book over to Ingram Spark to be printed. It always makes me laugh when people say, like, oh, I like Drafted Digital printing better than Ingram Sparks printing. No, you guys, it literally is being sent to Ingram Spark to be printed. It is the same printing. So to me, Drafted Digital, while they have a very easy to use platform and that's attractive for many people, they don't give you as much control and they're a middleman to Ingram Spark. So I personally recommend that you take your print books, you upload them directly to KDP if possible and print on KDP for Amazon. And then you take your print on demand print books to Ingram Spark and use Ingram Spark directly to set up your print book for distribution outside of Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookstores, libraries, that whole gamut would come through Ingram Spark. So that's what I recommend. Um, Now, as far as that, I do recommend using Ingram Spark for that. Now, if we are talking about Drafted Digital for ebooks, I do recommend Drafted Digital for ebooks if your ebook is not in the Kindle Select program for Kindle Unlimited. If your book is in Kindle Select for Kindle Unlimited on KDP, your book is exclusive to Amazon and you do not have the rights to publish that book elsewhere. It's exclusive on Amazon. Now, as we all know, Kindle Select is a 30-day, or I'm sorry, a 90-day program. So you can, at any time, you can opt out of Kindle Select. And then once your 90 days runs up, then you can go wide if you'd like to. If you're going wide from the outset, Drafted Digital is what I would recommend. And Drafted Digital for the ebook is very easy to use. They will get your book up into a whole host of different sale opportunities. So they will get your book into Overdrive, Bibliotheca, Hoopla, all for libraries. They will get your book up into Gardeners, your ebook into Gardeners. They will get your ebook into Scribd, iTunes. They will get your book into Barnes and Noble, Kobo, pretty much everywhere. Like they do a really good job. And I love them for ebook for that reason. And so if you're looking to go wide with your ebook, I do actually prefer Drafted Digital over Ingram Spark for ebook distribution, not only because of ease of use on their platform, but because of some of their marketing tools. Like right now, I have an author who today has a BookBub deal. And we were able to preset that BookBub deal date for when it goes down, when it comes back up. I was able to just set it all up in Drafted Digital without having to go in. Whereas on Ingram Spark, changes are not that quick. You can't schedule them in advance. And then some other things. I just like Drafted Digital for best for ebook distribution. So I do recommend them for that. And I often get asked the question, like, should my book be wide or should it be in Kindle exclusive? And there are a couple things to consider. I am, by the way, I have a YouTube video on the YouTube channel for book. It's called Book Distribution Basics, and it is how I like to distribute books and why. And so you can check that out on the YouTube channel, but I did drop the link in here. Now, as far as going Kindle exclusive or going wide, there are some things to consider. And one of those is what are your competitors doing and where do your readers like to read books? So, for example, contemporary romance. Contemporary romance very often will be on Kindle Unlimited, and that's how readers like to read because they're reading like a book a day. They're reading voraciously. So if you're not putting your book on Kindle Unlimited and you're going wide, you may be missing sales because people aren't reading that way. Ironically, historical romance or Regency romance, people are more likely to read across the board on different devices like Barnes and Noble and Kobo. And so a lot of the Regency romance authors, I recommend that they go wide for that reason. In some cases, you will have a book that you start off Kindle exclusive. I have one author right now who I just talked to this week, who all of her books are in Kindle Unlimited, but this one series is a little bit different. The audience that tends to read this book is a little bit different. So it does fine in Kindle Unlimited, but I have noticed over and over again that a ton of her income from this book comes from outright sales, both paperback and ebook. Not for just book one, but for all the books in the series. There is a lot of buyers more than subscription readers. And so I have encouraged her and I've said, hey, I think that if you got this book wide, because we're seeing you make fine money on Kindle Unlimited with that subscription service, but we're seeing a lot of your readers are outright buying the book. And I think that if you got out of Kindle Unlimited and went wide, you would make a lot more in sales from outright sales, because that seems to be the audience for this book. If you were to go wide and have a library opportunity and things like that, I think that you would do better than if you stay exclusive to Kindle. And we've been passing that back and forth for about a year and just decided on our last call that, hey, we're going to give it a shot. We're going to take this book out of Kindle Unlimited and we're going to take it wide. So it can now be in Kobo and iTunes and things. And this author has made had great profits, a living off of Kindle Unlimited. But this series was telling us and showing us by the data that maybe that wasn't the best opportunity for this particular book and series. So sometimes you're reading the data and adjusting to that. Sometimes you're going by the genre or your readership and going by that. I just would recommend that if you have books or a series, not necessarily if you have books, but if you have a series, stick to one or the other. If you have your first book in Kindle Unlimited and the other books aren't, you're probably going to anger your readers. I don't recommend that, because you'll have a lot of subscription readers who then don't want to read the rest of it because they have to buy it. So if you have multiple series, maybe one series is in, one is out. But if you have one series or whatever series it is, be consistent throughout. If you're in Kindle Unlimited, would be my advice. In Ingram Spark, I just want to remind everyone that Ingram Spark is a printer. Ingram Spark does not sell books, they print books. Ingram Spark sends books to Ingram, they send them out places, but they don't actually sell books. Even though, yes, I know that you can get links to sell them, but it's selling through someone else. So that's really important to realize, because we run into that a lot when people think that Ingram Spark is actually like the sales face of their book. They're actually selling through Ingram Spark. It's just different. Once you take a book out of Kindle Unlimited, can you put it in back later? You absolutely can. Just remember that Kindle Unlimited is exclusive. So if you're going to go wide, let's say you do draft to digital and you put your books out wide. Well, if you decide you'd like to go back to Kindle Unlimited, you're going to have to unpublish your books on draft to digital. You're going to have to make sure it's taken down from all the other platforms, and then you can go back into Kindle Unlimited at that time, as long as the ebook is exclusive there. What's the easiest way to find out where a new release is available through Ingram's channels? So I'm not sure if you're asking like if it's available, but a lot of times look up the ISBN of the book on Amazon. Does it show up? If so, and it's published through Ingram Spark, then it's going to go through Ingram. If you find it on barnesandnoble.com, then that's one of the things that can let you know a book has actually gone out through Ingram, because that's where they're getting their information from Ingram Spark that's passed to Ingram, and then Ingram's releasing out elsewhere. So that is where a book would be available. That way, for anyone who has a wholesale account, you can always look on iPage, which is where books are purchased wholesale from Ingram. But most people don't have access to that. But that is one way to find out if a book is available on Ingram, is through iPage. All right, oops, there we go. Speaking of, before I answer this next question, speaking of Barnes & Noble, Barnes & Noble has just made a big announcement that they are starting to curate their online listings a little bit more. It used to be if you published a book on Ingram Spark, or if you put it through the Barnes & Noble Press, that your book, your print book, would show up on barnesandnoble.com. And Barnes & Noble has just made an announcement that they are doing a huge curation of their catalog, and they will be removing public domain works. They are moving low content works, and they will be removing or limiting severely erotica. So a lot of titles that were previously being pushed over there, either through Ingram Spark expanded distribution or through Amazon KDP expanded distribution, which just puts the book into Ingram Spark, or through Ingram Spark directly, that those titles, they are going to start pulling them. So public domain works, low content works, and then also quite a bit of erotica. Now, how they're defining erotica exactly, I'm not quite sure. I know part of what they're doing is also making it so that as people are searching for books, they can click a button to either exclude or include erotic works. Now, we know that there's a lot of spicy romance, and I'm not sure where they're drawing the line between spicy romance and straight erotica, because it is a fine line. It's a fine line, and sometimes they intertwine. So we'll see what goes with that. But they did just make that announcement this week, I believe. So I will not be surprised if titles start coming down. And I also wouldn't be surprised if some titles get taken down accidentally in the process. So keep an eye on your titles in barnesandnoble.com if you tend to sell books there. And of course, if you want your books there. Does it matter where I upload my book first? I was told I could only get print-on-demand copies of my book before it's published from Ingram Spark for reviews. Are there any downsides to publishing on Ingram first, or should I upload it to Amazon first and just not click distribute? There used to be several years ago, you had to upload to KDP before you uploaded to Ingram Spark. There are a lot of complaints about that, and they fixed it so that doesn't happen anymore. I personally have uploaded books Ingram Spark first and then KDP. I've done the opposite, KDP and Ingram Spark, and I have not had a problem doing either way in several years. So I personally would not worry about that. But if you want to be abundantly safe, I would recommend that you upload your book to KDP, but do not publish. So just put the information in, put your ISBN in, create the listing, and just save it, but don't publish it. And then go over to Ingram Spark, and you can go ahead and upload. You can even make it live, and you shouldn't have any problem when you go to develop. So I personally have had no issues. I've even had books that were on KDP for years, and then we made an Ingram Spark listing, and I had no problems. But sometimes people do. I'm not going to respond to that, Kevin. I'm not going to respond. And so, yes, if you're concerned, go and just upload KDP, create the listing, but don't publish before you go to Ingram Spark. I think that was most of my. Oh, there was another good question that came in this week that I wanted to address. And that is someone asked me about Amazon Advantage. So Amazon Advantage is now open. It was closed for a really long time for authors, but Amazon Advantage essentially is where you set up a seller account through Amazon, but rather than just the normal seller account where you can sell your set books, rather than just publishing it, getting your print copies, and then you being the seller where you fulfill. If someone orders a copy, it comes to you and you have to ship that out in a certain amount of time. Advantage is different in the sense that you apply to work with Amazon directly. And so you become a seller with Amazon. You ship them stock copy of your books. They warehouse your books, they fulfill the order, and they actually do the whole process. So you're working with Amazon for their shipment and fulfillment rather than Seller Central, which is where you can sell offset print and you can create book listings, but you receive the order. You're responsible for fulfilling them. So if you get 2 orders on Tuesday, you're responsible for taking those orders and shipping them by Wednesday. With Amazon Advantage, Amazon says, okay, send us 200 books. And you send them 200 books and they warehouse them. And when sales come, they sell them. And then when they get low on inventory, they say, we need more books, and you're responsible for shipping them there. So this is for offset print. And Advantage is awesome because it's less hands off. I believe the author ends up making more money than if they were doing Seller Central, just because of some of the warehousing and the shipping and stuff like that. So it is very convenient. However, it also is a big commitment as far as being able to send larger copies, and it's open for application, but that doesn't mean everyone will be approved. And this is something that has created some confusion. If you have offset print books that you would like to have in the Amazon Advantage system, you have to apply as a publisher, as an author, small business, you have to apply for the program. You will have to put in business information and, tax information, all that kind of stuff. So you'll have to have that at the ready. Once you apply, they typically respond in 2 weeks if the answer is yes. If the answer is not yes, I've heard that they are just not replying. So you pretty much wait 2 to 3 weeks. If you get a yes, then fantastic. If no response, then it's a no. Then you need to consider Seller Central if you'd like to sell your offset print books or working with a distributor. So Advantage is open, but it doesn't mean everyone will get it. And that's a really important distinction. As far as Seller Central, pretty much everyone gets into Seller Central. It's kind of like having an Etsy account. You are responsible for shipping and everything. Most of those, if you apply for Seller Central, most of the time you'll get approval within 2 days, maybe a week, and you can start selling really quickly, but you are responsible for fulfillment and all of that good stuff. And you can do Seller Central where you pay like a monthly flat fee, or you can pay where you do no fees, but you're paying 99 cents per item sold. So depending on how much volume you're moving, one might be better than the other for you. But that's a really high level overview of both and what's available. If you have more questions, of course, I'm happy to answer them, but they're a little bit different. Amazon Advantage is not just for books, it's for small business, but it's for consistent business. So FBA is just kind of, to my understanding, I've not used FBA in years, but there is Seller Central, which is like pretty much anyone can do it. And like I said, it's kind of like Etsy. FBA is for like bigger sellers that are working with Amazon, and Amazon Advantage is for small business or authors, people who have limited number of products who want to work with Amazon on warehousing and fulfillment, but on a limited number of products. And so it's often used for books for that reason. Let's see. How many months do you wait before reaching out to a publisher and checking on the status of your submission request? Many publishers or agents will have in like their submissions guidelines how long it takes. So look there first and see if they have a standard time and follow that. If so, if there's not a standard time, then I would say wait a good 6 to 12 weeks. And then after that time frame, just reach out and ask if the book's still under consideration. And if so, if there's a timeline that you might be able to expect a response back by or when you should check back in. But 6 weeks is not long. Like 3 months is, I would say, pretty standard. Publishing moves very slow, very slow. So around the 3-month mark, I'd say you can follow up unless there's submission guidelines that say otherwise. Let's see. Denise, email me and I will get you, I'll make an send you email on that. All right. Do I recommend an iPage listing in the Ingram catalog? How about the sell and share program offered? Ingram and Ingram Spark have been doing a lot to try to amp up their advertising for the average author or publisher, and they've been doing a lot. I haven't been overly impressed with some of their ad programs. Like they have some ad programs where they run ads, but they're essentially running them on social media. And I think authors can kind of target better and more specifically themselves and know where their money is and controlling it a little bit more. So I don't love some of those ad programs. Now for the iPage listing, that is when you first upload a book, and the iPage listing is where they say, do you want to promote your book? And if you say yes, they're like, great, we have an iPage listing. I think it's $150. And I think that can be a great option for a new book, especially if it's new in series or new nonfiction, because what it does is it actually puts you in the iPage catalog, which gets sent out to their buyers once a month. So it literally does get you a little bit more exposure directly with buyers. Now, with that in mind, keep in mind a lot of their buyers are, yes, libraries, but a lot of them are retailers. And retailers will be expecting trade discount, 55% on Ingram Spark, and they will be expecting returnability. So if you're going to pay for the advertising, make sure that your terms are set up to get the most out of that. And if they're not, they might not be the best fit for you. Um, but I do think that the iPage listing in the catalog, it's $150, so it's not very much. And I think it can give you some great exposure. So in many cases, I will recommend that. Not all, but many. All right, you guys, it's 11 o'clock. So I think we got all our questions answered at the same time. Good timing. There we go. All right. So I think we're good for this week. I will see you guys next week, same time, same place, 10 a.m. Eastern. And can't wait to see you then. Have an awesome weekend.